The full name of him is John Orson Whitaker, Jr. He was born in Van Nuys, California, on December 13th, 1959. Johnny stood out from a very young age because he had a special spark. It wasn't just as a performer. It was also as a little kid who could make people feel things in a way that seemed real and pure. A lot of people knew him for being kind, honest, and innocent before he was even a child. Whitaker started working in show business when she was young. Since he was 3 years old, he has been in TV commercials. His cute personality and expressive face quickly made him famous. The journey of this character became more and more interesting as time went on. He got his big break when he was cast as Jody Davis on the hit CBS show Family Affair in 1966. Johnny played an orphan young man who moved in with their Uncle Bill with his twin sister Buffy, Anissa Jones. He was in a movie with Sebastian Cabot and Brian Keith. The show ran for 5 seasons, from 1966 to 1971, because it was so popular. Millions of people were touched by Johnny's performance as Jody because they could relate to how he showed how innocent a child can be when things change and they lose someone they care about. Whitaker's fame went through the roof at the same time that Family Affair did. Everyone in Hollywood knew that he was one of the biggest young stars there. Many people respected how professional he was and how he could play emotionally difficult parts with the maturity of an older actor. His close relationship with his co-stars, especially Brian Keith, was brilliantly shown on screen, giving the characters a real sense of family ties that hit home with viewers. He became like a father to Johnny off-screen, and this friendship would have a big impact on Johnny's life in the future. Whitaker had an easier time getting movie parts after Family Affair ended than many other child stars. A lot of people praised his performance in The Biscuit Eater in 1972. It was a touching story about a child and his loyal dog that showed he could lead a movie with real emotional depth. He also played the naughty but likable Tom Sawyer in Tom Sawyer, 1973, a Reader's Digest show with music by the Sherman Brothers. Many people liked how he played the brave child from Mark Twain's famous book, and it's still one of the most remembered movie versions of the character. In 2012, Johnny Whitaker unexpectedly and artistically came back to the public eye when he co-produced and co-hosted The Doctor, a short but amazing radio talk show. A show with Johnny and Zod in it. Whitaker was able to get people's attention in a whole new way by mixing comedy, honest conversation, and self-reflection. His fans often said nice things about how quick-witted, charming, and wise he was about life in and out of show business. Longtime fans liked how the former child star talked about his life in Hollywood and beyond in a mature, funny, and honest way, even though the show didn't last long. In 2013, Whitaker made yet another important step forward in his work. Now it's time for the stage. He was in the professional production of To Kill a Mockingbird by the Judson Theater Company. The idea for the play came from Harper Lee's Pulitzer Prize-winning book of the same name. Whitaker's performance as Judge Taylor, even though it was only a short cameo, had a quiet gravity that showed how good an actor he is and how much he enjoys literary theater. People felt moved by his appearance, and critics say that his calm authority and moving delivery made the courtroom scenes feel more real. Whitaker's big return to live theater with this part gave him the chance to get back to the pure art of acting that first drew him to entertainment as a child. Then, in 2016, Whitaker made an appearance in the Amazon revival of Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, which made fans of all ages very happy. Coming back to the hit show that made him famous in the 1970s was this. In the first episode, he played Zach, a grumpy but funny boat owner who insults Captain Barnabas, played by David Arquette, an unhappy sailor. It was more than just a fun visit during their stay. One of the most moving things about the show was the touching tribute to the original series and Whitaker's start in children's TV. Well-known original series creators Sid and Marty Krofft made cameos in the show as well. For both new and old fans of Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, Whitaker's return to the show was a nice reminder that he is linked to a generation of magical Saturday morning TV shows. Johnny Whitaker showed that his love of telling stories had never gone away through his work on radio, stage, and movies. Each presentation showed off a different skill of his. He was kind and funny, had a lot of energy, and could make people feel nostalgic. Whitaker continued to grow and change for decades after becoming famous as a kid actor. In this way, he showed that he still had a strong desire to be artistic and make people laugh. Johnny Whitaker's short marriage to Simria Wright was an important part of his long and complicated personal life. They got married in 1984, while Johnny was still trying to deal with the often hard change from child star to adult. Whitaker was already famous at that point for his parts in Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, Tom Sawyer, and Family Affair. He was known for being the happy kid next door, but he was having a hard time finding a new identity and purpose outside of Hollywood. Having worked hard in the tough world of show business for years, he married Simria Wright to find safety, company, and maybe a return to normalcy. Johnny may have liked Simria Wright's non-entertainment job at first because he was tired of the demands of fame and the lies that often came with it. Their relationship helped him get his life back on track and find real connection outside of the spotlight. They had great times and made plans for the future together, but it ran into problems right away, as many young marriages do, especially those that are affected by the complicated world of Hollywood. Johnny was having problems with himself, like becoming more and more disappointed with the show business. He would later have problems with drugs that had a big effect on his relationships and quality of life. Because of the distance and different goals, these problems may have put a lot of stress on the marriage. John Whitaker and Simria Wright ended their marriage in 1988, after 4 years of marriage. They split up. Johnny's life got better after they broke up, but it was still very painful. After they broke up, he had to deal with his own problems and think about where he wanted his life to go. A lot of information about Simria Wright has not been made public because she stayed mostly private after her divorce. But Johnny's meeting with her changed the way he thought about relationships, being strong, and his own worth. Whitaker was honest about his problems during and after the marriage when they talked again. He said that ending the marriage was just one of many big insights that helped him start over. One of the most difficult times of Johnny's life followed their divorce. He struggled with addiction and lost interest in acting, which was his main goal when he was younger. However, an amazing change came from the darkness. After a few years, he came out of the closet emotionally and sober, offering to help people who were going through the same things. Because of this, his short marriage to Simria Wright could be seen as a hard but necessary step on his long road to healing and self-improvement. Family Affair fans have loved the sweet relationship between little Jody Davis and his Uncle Bill Davis, played by veteran actor Brian Keith. For a long time, Johnny Whitaker, who played Jody when she was a child star and is now 65 years old, has chosen to talk more about his time working with Keith, whom he sees as more than just a co-star. Whitaker says Brian Keith wasn't just another player on the set. At that age, he was like a second dad to me as I tried to make sense of the world. He took the time to teach me, guide me, and keep me safe from the stresses of Hollywood. What he said showed that they had a deep emotional link that went beyond the cameras and the carefully chosen words. Whitaker said that when Family Affair first started, he was thrown into a world full of adults, long workdays, and high standards. He was only 7 years old at the time. During all of that, Brian Keith stood out as someone who could calm things down. Even though he seemed tough, he had a soft heart. Whitaker said he didn't talk about his thoughts very often, but it was clear that he did. Keith was known as a tough, strong guy, but he joked around with the kids between takes and even helped them understand what their lines meant. "Don't just say the words, Johnny," he'd tell him. "Believe in them." "I've thought about that my whole life." Whitaker did say that Keith wasn't always easy, though. He could be scary at times. Whitaker said that the sound of his voice might scare you. Everyone knew to stay away from him when he was mad. I was sure, though, that he always loved us. He was just a man who carried a lot of weight around. Whitaker's voice got sadder when he talked about Keith's problems in later life, like losing loved ones and getting worse physically. He smiled and said, "I think people forget that even strong men like Brian can be broken on the inside." He had seen and been through so much, and sometimes that pain would come through in ways people didn't understand. It was 1971 when Family Affair finished, and Whitaker was only a teenager. Besides his role as a child star, he was still trying to figure out who he was. As Whitaker put it, "Brian kept in touch with me for a while. He called me to see how I was doing, especially when he knew I was having a hard time. But Hollywood has the power to make people hate each other. Each person has their own path to follow. Whitaker was heartbroken when he learned that Keith had died too soon in 1997. "I remember crying like a child again," he said. "It hurts so much to think about how much pain he must have been in. He wasn't just my uncle from TV. I thought of him as family." Whitaker went on to talk about how important Keith's skills are to him. "He taught me what real professionalism looks like," he stated. "He taught me that being an actor wasn't just about getting famous. Being honest was the point. Brainy made everything seem real, like he wasn't even pretending to play." After that, he would say, "Johnny, if you don't feel it, no one else will." It's been more than 50 years since you said that. Whitaker talked about Keith's impact and how rare it was in Hollywood to find someone who really cared about the well-being of a child actor. "There were a lot of adults who saw kids like me as props," he said. "But Brian didn't. He thought of me as a person. He watched me. That's one reason I did well in the business, while so many other young celebrities failed, in my opinion." Whitaker has talked about his own struggles with addiction and depression since his image began to fade. He says that teachers like Keith gave him the strength to keep going. "Whenever I was down, I'd think about Brian's strength," he stated. "He was the kind of man who faced his demons with courage, and that inspired me to keep going." Now, Whitaker is very thankful for Family Affair, both for the attention it gave him and for the people who helped shape his life. He was sad and said, "I don't think I ever really told Brian how much he meant to me. He changed my life, if I could tell him. Some things are more valuable than money or fame. He made me feel good about myself." Fans can remember that behind all the laughter and smiles of TV's golden age, there were real human connections made by Johnny Whitaker's honest views. All of them are important, but some are delicate and hard to understand. "Brian Keith was my hero," Whitaker said at the end. "I'm 65 years old now, and I can fully see that he wasn't just playing. Every day, he showed me what a real father figure and guy should be like." Johnny Whitaker still thinks of Brian Keith as a big part of his life and a big part of who he is now, even though they are co-stars. He came to the conclusion that Brian was hard to understand. He had flaws, but he was honest and loved people. It was clear from the way he worked, talked to people, and moved, even if he didn't always say it. "I finally told the truth about Brian Keith, so that fans would remember him for more than just his TV parts. He wants them to remember that on the other side of them is a person and a quiet depth